Guys and girls, welcome back to the channel. I'm back at Into Moto in Warrington and I feel like I haven't been here for ages. So what I've done is my usual. I've gone in, I've had a look round at the bikes that they've got in, and I found something that I've not ridden before. So let's have a look at what I'm on today. And here we have Keeway's RKS 125. Now I've been on a lot of different Keeways, but I've not done an RKS. So naturally I gravitated towards it. So what we'll do, usual fashion, we'll have a look around the bike. I'll throw some specifications at you as we're going, and then we'll take it for a test ride. Stay with me. So this bike is a used one. Now I like taking a used bike out, especially one of the, I don't like to say it, but one of the Chinese made bikes, because they get a lot of bad press. A lot of people will instantly just go, no, Chinese, cheap, nasty, whatever. But I like to take a used one out because people can see what they actually look like, how they ride after they've got a bit of age. This one in particular is on a 70 UK plate, which means it is 4 years old, but I think it's hiding its age nicely. You will get age related marks on a 4-year-old bike, but for a bike of that age I think it looks all right. I like the looks of it. Only a single disc at the front. But these 125cc machines are very light. This one being 132 kilograms. So that should be ample. But we'll see when we do the test ride. So out of this little engine, we are getting at 11.4 horsepower. Now, for me, that doesn't sound much. You can get around 15 legally in the UK. That's the max that we're allowed for these 125cc bikes. Now 11.4 doesn't sound great, however it has got a claimed maximum speed of 65 miles an hour. Now if that's true, that's really what you're going to get out of a decent 125. Anything over 60 miles an hour is good. Now I'm going to test that out today. I am going to put this bike through my speed test. I'm going to do it, and because of its claimed speed of 65 miles an hour, we're going to see, will it do 65 miles an hour? In fact, firstly, will it do 60? We'll find that out on the test ride. It's got a 16 litre fuel tank. Now for a 125, I think that's quite a big fuel tank, and again, looking at the spec sheet, it says it will do 100 miles per gallon. So if it gets anywhere close to that, it's a very fuel efficient motorcycle. And that's what these 125cc bikes are all about for me. They are about getting on the road nice and cheaply, a money saver. Now buttons are what you would expect out of a bike like this. You've got the standard horn indicators, high, low beam, and then there's a flash. The buttons just look like your typical cheap plastic feeling buttons. Yeah, but you've got to expect that of a bike at this price point. Speaking of which, this bike is currently up for sale with Into Moto for £1,499. Now, from a dealership, buying a motorcycle for a pound under £1,500, it's very cheap. It is. It's a cheap motorcycle. You don't get many for less than £2,000. Now, I know it's a used one, but still, seems like good value on paper, but we'll see on the test ride. Back to the buttons, right hand side, you've just got, again, start, hazard lights, and your cut-off switch. Again, the buttons just feel like a cheaper motorcycle. They do. They are just pieces of plastic. It's to keep the cost down, so I can't complain. As long as they work, I haven't got a problem with them. It's a cheap motorcycle, so you're not going to get a TFT screen, you're not going to get loads of rider modes, what you are going to get, you're going to get a nice rev counter, which is very nice. You're going to get a decent digital speedo. LCD, excuse the camera here because I can see it with my eyes very clearly, but the camera for some reason is picking up a bit of a reflection, but through my eyes, nice and clear speedo. It's got your total miles as a clock. There is a fuel gauge, which is always good, and you've got your gear indicators going up this side, 1 all the way up to 5, so it has just got the 5 gears. Cheap and cheerful, no issues with it. Now there is some breaking news on this particular model. There is a new Keeway RKS that is coming out, that's going to be out in the middle of the year. I'm told it's very similar looking to this bike, but it is going to have a couple of updates, the TFT screen being one of them. I've not got the full spec of the brand new version. They are going to be considerably more expensive than a used version, but you're always going to get that with a used model. And what I like about getting a used bike is it's a good way to save money. Somebody's already ran the bike in for you. Somebody has took the big hit on the new price, and we get to reap the benefits by buying a quality good used example. Now, before I start raving about it too much, I need to ride it, don't I? So I'm going to do that shortly. Before I do though, I'm going to jump on and we'll see how I look on this bike, remembering I'm 5'8" tall with a 29-inch inseam, so that translates to I'm a short guy with short legs. This is the perfect bike for somebody who, like myself, has issues with height. It's got a 760mm seat height, so quite a short motorcycle. It will certainly suit people who are shorter. I've already said I've got really short legs, yet I'm not stretching. I'm fully flat foot both sides. I've got a nice bend in my knee. I could stand up and I'm completely off the back seat there, loads of room. Now what is good about that, certainly for a shorter rider, it means that you can maneuver it quite easily using your feet to just roll it backwards and forwards. The weight of the bike certainly helps that out. One thing I'm jealous of you tall guys for, and girls, being able to do this. It's much more difficult when you are tiptoeing, trying to get some grip on your toes, but yeah, it's not an issue with this bike. Time for the important bit. I'm going to ditch the cap, I'm going to get my helmet, get my gloves, and we'll take this for a ride. I've already said I'm doing a speed test, so we'll try a few different types of roads, but I am very interested to see, does it get anywhere near the claimed 65 miles an hour? I hope so, but let's find out. Let's start it up and see how it sounds. It does feel really small though, and it's not a particularly small bike. It's just I've come down today on my very own Yamaha Nikon, which is quite a big wide seat, and it's much taller than this one. I'm kind of on the balls of my feet, so sitting on this flat-footed, it just does make you feel probably how you tall people feel when you sit on a average size motorbike. To be fair, it's nice. I get why you like it so much, being taller. Start straight away. Decent sounding motorcycle. It's got just over 7,500 miles. 7,500 miles. And it's a Keeway, and it's still working, and it started first time, and it looks decent. So let's see. Let's see how it performs, the little rascal. So let's start with the ritual ride out of into moto straight onto the cobbles. I'm just keeping it in first gear to go quite slowly to see what it's like at slow maneuvers, but also to see what it's like on the cobbles, and it soaks them up beautifully. The gear changes are nice and smooth, up and down, seems to go through the gears nicely. Again, the big test for that is going to be when we do our speed test, and that is where I'm heading towards now. Head towards my usual national speed limit road, and we'll see. Does it get anywhere near to the 65 mile an hour claim top speed? Feels nippy enough, up to 30 miles an hour. Let's take it up to 40. So 40 mile an hour in 4th gear. Yeah, it does it with no issues at all. So I'm certainly quite low down on the revs. I'm in 4th gear. I've got another gear to go. So yeah, normal road speeds, it's doing it very easily. Yeah, no complaints for me. I can see everything I need to in the mirrors. They are very practical, and unlike a lot of the stylish mirrors that are out there, the bar ends like up or above the bars, these, yeah, you can see everything. They work as they're supposed to, which is good. I'm happy with the gear changes for a bike that's a few years old. It's nice and light on the clutch lever. On your foot is nice and light as well. Going down gears, just the slightest tap, and yeah, it's doing what you want it to do. So for me, it's riding like a new bike should, and this is a 4-year-old example. So that is, it's a good ticking a box for me, because, you know, I am always told, and I'm sure you're always told, about how these cheap motorcycles they just never last, and people do get quite vocal about it. But I'm quite happy with how this is riding so far. It's riding as I would expect a new bike to. So it's a credit to its last owner, because they've obviously looked after it, because that's what happens when you look after a motorcycle. They last and they keep going. So yeah, I'm impressed so far. Any 125 that can do over 60 miles an hour and apparently gives you 100 miles per gallon, I mean, that is just a brilliant money saver for me, especially when you take into account the initial outlay of this bike being £1,499. I think that's a really cheap way of getting to and from work. Now, I know the big stumbling block is always going to be insurance. Insurance will probably cost more than the bike, knowing what the insurance companies are doing at the minute. I just think they're an absolute rip-off, especially for new riders. There will be people online, I'm sure, that will be telling me that they can still insure their bikes for £100 a year or whatever. But unfortunately, people and prices like that, they're just getting fewer and far between. My bikes now are costing me an absolute fortune. My Nikon, I mean, considering I've been riding for so long, I've got no claims, the maximum no claims, and even my Nikon's costing me best part of £800 a year to insure fully comp, which is just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. That is just, I mean, it's more than what my cars cost. Or cars, check me out. Car, I do only have one car, but it's more than what my car costs to insure, which I just think's ridiculous. That was the cheapest I could get it, and I did all the compare sites, did everything, and yeah, I love it. So I just have to pay the price, don't I? We are about to get onto a national speed limit road that has got a 60 mile an hour speed limit on it, so we're gonna see how it deals with this. Now, it is slightly uphill initially, so I'm gonna see if this bike can deal with it, or if I'm gonna start getting overtaken. Now, there is a bit of a big wagon at the front. I think that's gonna help me because it's gonna hold up a little bit of traffic. It certainly means everyone's not going to just take off now we're on the nationals. But yeah, 45, 50 mile an hour doesn't seem to be an issue. We're going uphill just ever so slightly, but it's enough that it can affect the smaller engine bikes like the 125s, but it's not really slowing me down. I feel like the bike's got quite a bit left in it, so who knows, is it going to reach the magic 60? I just need to know that it can do 60 mile an hour, so I can take it on a dual carriageway. I can take it for maybe a junction or two up the motorway if I needed to. If I struggle to get to 60 mile an hour and you are a little wee slip of a girl or a boy, don't think that you're going to have the same issue, because you might not. You may well be flying on this just because of the weight. Okay, so if you're familiar with the channel, you know exactly what I'm doing. This is my starting point that I usually go for. There's me grid there. Now, it's a national speed limit road, so I can do 60 miles an hour on this legally in the UK. I'm going to take off from here. I am going to try and get to 60 miles an hour before the long left-hand bend that's down the road. The camera will probably barely pick it up, but there is like a white house down there on the left-hand side. That is kind of in the middle of the bend, so that's how far we're talking. We have got quite a decent run up. We'll see how we get on, and then I'll compare it to other bikes. When we're going down there, I'll shout out points where other bikes have managed to get to 60 mile an hour, and I'll compare it to similar bike. The GSX-S managed to get to 60 miles an hour pretty much around a tree on the left hand side. That was rapid as far as 125cc bikes of this like style goes. The MT and the Vosges got to, it was something like 58, 59 miles an hour by the time the bend started, so they were very close but just missed out. However, I was about 3 stone heavier when I did that, so if I do get an opportunity to do the test again on either of those bikes, I will do it, because I want to see if me losing 3 stone makes a difference, and I'd like to think it does. So yeah, if I get an opportunity I will, but for now let me get the bike ready. We'll get us in gear, and as soon as the road is clear in front of me and I've got a nice clear run, I'm gonna start. Let's go. Now I am taking it to pretty much the limit. As soon as it runs out of power, I am changing gear. Now we're at 51. The GSX-S got to 60 mile an hour here, and I'm currently at 54, 55. I'm at the corner. I'm still in 4th gear because there's a little bit left. And I'm not changing gear. And there's 60. So I'll change gear. So do you know what, that actually wasn't too bad. I got to 60 mile an hour just after the long bend, and I've been on a lot of motorcycles that still haven't reached 60 mile an hour by the point I'm at now, and I've been talking for a while, and this has been to 60, slowed down, and I could probably get it back to 60 in the time that I think a Lex Moto that I went on had still not got to 60. Yeah, and you can see back to 60. So I can confirm that even with somebody as heavy as myself, let's slow it right down back into normal 30 mile an hour roads. Oh, blah. Yeah, so even with somebody as heavy as myself on, this bike got to 60 mile an hour, and is it up there with the fastest? No, but I would say it's better than the average. For it to get to 60 mile an hour, it was kind of mid or towards the end of that bend. That is actually not too bad. It's not too far off what I would say is the better performing ones, so it's better than average. if budget was an issue, if you're looking for a cheap run around, then this is actually not a bad shout, you know. The only thing I would say is if you were looking at getting something like this and you are taller, the issue I think you may have is this bike fits me quite well, and I would say certainly when I'm going for the brake I have to lift my foot up off the peg, and that is because even my short legs seem to be quite long for this bike. So if you are taller, if you're like 5'9", 5'10" or beyond, this bike may well feel like a bit of a clown bike for you. You may well feel massive on it and you might feel a little bit scrunched up. However, if you are my height or smaller, then this bike could well fit you like a glove. Let me just break it down as I start taking this back to Into Moto. So the bike itself, I've harped on, it's a very cheap motorcycle. It's very fuel efficient. If you've got one of these, let me know in the comments so you can share it with everybody else who's considering getting one. As far as comfort goes, yeah, it's a comfortable bike for somebody of my height and size. So if you are of a similar height to myself, yeah, don't worry about it, this bike will be perfect. If you are smaller, I would say, because I've got such a big bend in the knee when I flat foot this bike, I should imagine somebody around the 5 foot would probably be able to flat foot this bike. I would bet you probably could, you know, at that height. So again, if you've got one of these bikes, if you are smaller, share your height with the group, because there's always a lot of people asking online about bikes that are suitable for people around the 5 foot height mark. Let me know if you're that height and if you've got one, because again, I love when owners share their experience, especially if they are really tall or really short, because it just lets other people know what they're dealing with as well. Because it's very easy for me to jump on here, I can tell you my experience, but you might be taller, you might be shorter, and you might want to know how others have got on. So yes, share away in the comments. But yeah, I genuinely, across the board, I'm actually really impressed with this bike. It goes through the gears nicely, it rides nicely. I don't really have any doubts that it could do 65, maybe even slightly faster. Now again, I know I keep repeating myself, but if you have one, if you've owned one, let me know your experience, let me know how fast or what you got indicated, because yeah, I can't doubt what Keeway is saying as far as the specs go, because I've seen myself with my muscly physique. Yeah, I'm gonna say that, don't correct me in the comments, you'll make me feel bad, but with myself on, I was very close to getting to that, and I think with a long enough run up I probably got to that, and I'm heavy. So yeah, so performance, comfort, and in particular price, it's just a tick 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 for this bike. I've got to say, I'm impressed. Yeah, it's a nice bike. I would recommend it. If you are looking for a cheap run around 125cc motorcycle, then Into Moto are selling this and many others. You can see a selection outside there, and there's quite a few out today. So yeah, if you're looking for a cheap 125, they have a few. This in particular today has really impressed me. I'll put a link in the description for this bike should you be interested. That's going to do me for today. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Laters.